Is the air inside your car safe for you to breathe? Welcome to Auto Be Careful, the place for car safety, news, and information. I'm Gene, and today we're going to take a look at a new study out of France published in PLOS ONE that investigates the air quality inside vehicles. In order to understand this study, we first have to talk about what air quality means. Everywhere in the air around us, there are contaminants floating around. These come from a variety of sources, including other humans, animals, vehicles, and more. For example, when someone scratches an itch, some of their skin and hair might come off and float around in the air for a little while. In the case of a strand of hair, it would probably fall to the ground fairly quickly, and even if you were to breathe it in, you would probably notice it because you would feel it. The most likely scenario is that you would cough this up right away. However, with smaller skin cells, they're more likely to float around in the air for even longer, and because they're smaller, you're less likely to notice them when you breathe them in. That means it's more likely to enter your airway undetected, and this is an important concept to remember. The smaller the contaminant, the more likely it is to get into a place it doesn't belong. The example I just used helps illustrate what can happen when particles are so tiny they're invisible to the naked eye. Larger particles can get into your airway or possibly even your lungs, but don't get much further than that. Smaller particles are more dangerous because they can get past your lungs and into your bloodstream, which means they can spread throughout your entire body. Microplastics are an example of this type of contaminant. These have been associated with health issues, including chronic bronchitis, chronic pneumonia, and pulmonary emphysema. Because microplastics can get into the bloodstream, they've been found to accumulate in other areas of the body, including the liver and the brain. These little bits of plastic can cause all sorts of harm, including immune system damage, reproductive damage, and cancer. They don't just cause harm on their own either. They can absorb toxins in the environment as they're floating around in the air, and then release them once they enter the human body and cause even more damage. While microplastics are believed to have spread all over the globe, because of the harm they can do, it's usually best to avoid them. So that leads me to the question I asked at the beginning of the video, which is the air inside your car safe for you to breathe? The study that I mentioned earlier focused on microplastics that are small enough to enter the bloodstream. These have largely gone unstudied so far because most other research have focused on larger microplastic particles. What the study found was there was roughly 2,238 microplastics per cubic meter found in vehicles compared to roughly 528 microplastics per cubic meter found in homes. That means there's roughly 4 times as many microplastics found in a vehicle than in a home. The study went into further detail about the differences between the environment in a vehicle and the environment in a home. They noted that while both environments could be fully enclosed, the environment inside a vehicle is much smaller. This could lead to several issues, including giving microplastics fewer locations to settle down. They also noted that while vehicle interiors are typically made out of synthetic material like plastic, homes typically are not. This is likely to lead to a higher microplastic count because plastic materials shed microplastics. So the more plastic is found in an environment, the higher likelihood microplastics will be found there too. One other huge difference between homes and vehicles is vehicles tend to have more active airflow. This constant airflow can lead to more microplastics in the air because they aren't given as much of a chance to settle down. This was further evidenced by a single reading inside of one of the homes in the study, which had a high activity level for 2 people and resulted in the highest microplastic reading of 34,404 microplastics per cubic meter. That one reading was 15 times higher than the 2,238 microplastics per cubic meter number I mentioned for vehicles earlier in the video. They also found that microplastics found in vehicles tend to be smaller than those found in homes, which again means they can get further into the human body. While this sounds really alarming, It gets so much worse when you consider the European Union recommended inhalation rates for adults and children. For adults, the recommended inhalation rate for microplastics is 12 to 20 microplastics per cubic meter per day. For children, it's 8 to 14 microplastics per cubic meter per day. Those recommended numbers are well below the levels found in vehicles and homes, which help contribute to the 68,000 microplastics that adults breathe in every day and the 47,000 microplastics that children breathe in every day. To summarize, both adults and children should be breathing in less than 1% of the microplastics that they actually inhale every day. And the 90% of the time that we spend indoors, including 5% in our vehicles, contributes to this more than we previously thought. So what can be done to prevent these health issues? Well, the study officially recommends more research be done on the topic because the work they have done barely scratches the surface of the problem. Beyond that, there aren't any official recommendations from the study, but it's possible to infer that some additional steps may help. One idea is to increase the space of the environment by rolling down the windows instead of being cooped up in the small space of a vehicle. Another idea is to reduce airflow by turning off the active climate, although these two ideas are counterproductive to each other because rolling the windows down increases airflow. This is a perfect example of why more research is needed because we need to know which idea is the best path forward. Finally, it's worth looking at what materials are used inside your vehicle. Some automakers use what they call more premium materials, like leather instead of polyester seats, or metal and wood instead of plastic. Reducing the amount of plastic inside the vehicle reduces the amount of microplastics that can be shed into the air, and therefore reduces the amount that can be inhaled. So that's a look at the air quality inside your car and what needs to be done in order to reduce the amount of pollution hazards that you're exposed to. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like button below and subscribe to see more content like this.